Hi, in this video, we'll be creating these energy rings animation with the help of shader editor. So I'm going to use a plane. Let's delete the cube. Go to the edit mode and increase the size of this plane. You can press S and 5, so it will increase the size of the plane 5 times. Now I will also rotate this plane on Y axis by 90 degree. Now let's go to the shader editor. Here we can assign a new material to this plane, and at the same time go to the settings in the side panel and change the render method to blended. So we will be creating the rings animation in this plane. Let's bring out a gradient texture node, make it spherical, and add a color ramp node. The output of color ramp can be connected to the base color and alpha of principled PSDF. So you can see in our plane we have a gradient texture, and in this texture the darker region will be transparent since we have passed the output of color ramp to the alpha channel. Press Ctrl T to bring out texture coordinate and mapping nodes, and here we will change the values of scale and location to bring the gradient pattern at the center. I basically need a circle, a large circle at the center of this plane, and that's what I'm trying to achieve here. So in the scale coordinates, you can make x0 and change the values of y and z coordinates like this. And at the color ramp, you can move the handles and also add an extra handle, change its value to black. So you have this ring like pattern, and you can play around with these handles to change the inner boundary and outer boundary of this ring. We will continue to change the position of these handles later also. And if you change this location x coordinate, you can see our circle size is increasing and decreasing. And this can be used for animation. Let's add a timeline at the bottom. And here we can set the x coordinate of location as our keyframe. So at frame number 1, the x coordinates value is minus 0.9, and at 1/20th frame we will change this value to 0 and again make it a keyframe. Let me also reduce the size of the or duration of the clip. So you can see that this pattern has been animated and it is already appearing like a growing ring. You can pause at any frame and change the handles positions in color ramp. For example, I've just moved the left handle, dark handle of the color ramp, and it has increased the size of the outer edge of the circle. Next, I will add a noise texture, and I will use this node to add the sparkling effects in the rings. Similarly, you can press Ctrl T to get the texture coordinate and mapping nodes, and also add another color ramp to noise texture. And this color ramp will be used to add colors to our animated rings. Let's add a few handles in this color ramp, and we will assign different colors to those handles. So for example, this rightmost handle can be assigned a bluish color. Let's add a new handle and change its color to this. Also make sure you slide these handles and see the pattern in the plane. I've also added a white color handle in the middle. However, I also want to make the black color transparent in this case. So what I'll do, I'll transfer the or connect the output of this color RAM, second color RAM, to alpha. And there you go. The black color is transparent, as you can see in the plane. Let's change the scale in noise texture. And you can see the noise in our plane. The size has increased. All right, now let's bring out a mix color node, and this node will be used to combine both the color ramps. So basically we will combine the pattern of gradient texture and the noise texture. And the final output only pass to the principal BSDF color. Do remember, change the blending mode to multiply and connect the result to base color as well as alpha. You can also connect it to the emission and change the strength to something like 3 or 5. So now if you increase the value of vector in mix color node, you can see that we have an interesting pattern. We can further fine tune this pattern. So what I'll do, I'll use the 4D noise texture, and here we have an extra parameter W. So if you change the value of this parameter, the noise texture will move. So I'm keyframing this parameter from the first frame till the last frame. Okay, there you go. So our noise is moving. If you increase the value, the movement will be faster. Let's increase the scale And there you go. You can see that we have this sparkling texture. Now in the render view, our texture will look like this. I'm using EV render engine at the moment. Let's further adjust these colors. Feel free to use your own colors. I think this looks good. There you go. We have our first animated sparkling ring. Now let's try to render this frame. For that we need a camera setup. So just bring out a camera and press F12 to render this current frame. So here I am in the compositing tab. I will add a new tab called glare. This will help me in adding bloom effect or glow effect to my texture. I think I have to increase the emission value to get that bloom effect. Let's go back to the shader editor and change the emission value. Press F12 to render the current frame, and then only you'll be able to see that change in the bloom effect. Click on always to see the bloom effect in this viewport. Here at this frame, we don't have that gap at the center. So we can move these handles to get that gap. In the mapping node, let's change the first keyframe value to minus 0.8 instead of minus 0.9. So we have that hole in our ring right from the very beginning of this animation. We can also grab and shift the keyframes on our timeline, and it can increase or decrease the speed of the animation. We can also add keyframes to colors. So for example, if I set it to black at the first frame and assign it as a keyframe, so at the start of the animation we won't be able to see anything, and after a few frames we can change the color back to white for that central handle, and the animated ring will be visible. Also make sure you set it as the white color as the keyframe at that particular frame. Later on you can move that keyframe like that. So now in this animation, the animated ring is appearing with a fading in effect. And if you select a keyframe and press Shift D and move your pointer, you can basically copy that keyframe and place it anywhere you like in the timeline. And then again at 85th frame, I'm setting that same middle handle color as a keyframe back to black. So at the end of the animation, the ring will disappear slowly. And I've also reduced the duration of the animation to 85 frames. This looks good to me. And if you want to add more rings, simply select the plane, press Shift D to copy it. So each copy will have a separate node graph or node tree. Okay. So there are three rings right now. So we'll have three graphs, identical geometry nodes graphs. And do one more thing, just select all these rings and press the number icon just above the geometry nodes graph. Also, later on, you can select these planes one by one and change the colors like that. So we have this greenish and yellowish rings